There are a slew of tales about this mythical ship and her crew of the dead, who are destined to cruise the waters until the day of judgment. The ship's captain is claimed to have made a pact with the devil and became famed for his ability to complete the journey from Holland to Java in record time. Although the crew managed to elude arrest, they finally committed a heinous act, although some versions suggest they were infected with the plague, and the ship was barred from entering port. The skipper attempted to round the Cape of Good Hope during a violent storm, undeterred by the refusal of admission and confident in his ability to sail through at record speed. When the terrified crew pleaded with the captain to seek safe harbor, he swore into the wind that he and his crew would circle the Cape if he had to beat about the waves till Judgment Day. The ship sank in the storm, killing everyone on board. But, according to the captain's vow, the Flying Dutchman continues to sail the waters, her cursed crew continuously attempting to accomplish their doomed journey. There have been hundreds who claim to have seen this ghost ship, which supposedly hovers above the waves with an eerie, glowing mist about its masts in lieu of sails. The ship is believed to be a harbinger of imminent doom. One of the most famous sightings was reported by Prince George of Wales in the late 1800s. While making a passage off the coast of Australia between Sydney and Melbourne, he claimed at least 13 crew members spotted a glowing phantom ship at 4 a.m. The omen manifested itself later that day when the crewman who originally spotted Flying Dutchman fell from the foretopmast and was smashed to atoms. Mary Celeste, her crew of 8, and 2 passengers set sail from New York American Bourbon to Italy in early November 1872 with a cargo of 1,700 barrels of the crew of the Dei Grazia, which had left the harbor 7 days before Mary Celeste saw the ship sailing towards the Strait of Gibraltar under full sail. Despite the lack of distress signals, the Dei Grazia's crew suspected Mary Celeste of being abandoned and dispatched a boarding team to investigate. The Dei Grazia crew discovered Mary Celeste in surprisingly decent shape and they boarded it. 2 hatches had been left open, and those regions were a watery mess, but everything else looked to be in working order. The crew or passengers of the ship, however, were nowhere to be seen. There was food on the table and full cups of tea, according to several sources. The ship's clock had stopped and its compass had been damaged. The sextant and chronometer, as well as the majority of the ship's papers, albeit the logbook was left behind, were all lost. The lifeboat had been abandoned, and the lone survivor was a sleeping cat. Mary Celeste had been 160 kilometers west of the Azores, and the last entry in the logbook was made 2 weeks before, and the journal was otherwise unremarkable. Even though all 1,700 barrels of alcohol were aboard, 9 of them were empty after the abandoned ship was sailed to Gibraltar. The crew of the Dei Grazia was only given a small portion of the salvage since circumstances were so questionable. Pirates allegedly stole the ship and threw the crew and passengers adrift to drown at sea. Others believe the crew was devoured by sharks when swimming in the morning. But the truth is that we will likely never know what happened to them. There is some skepticism as to whether Orang Medan actually existed, but its legend is well known. Around 1948, Morse code distress signals were picked up by several ships off the coast of Indonesia. The vessel in distress was a Dutch freighter called Orang Medan, a Malay name meaning man from Medan. Despite the fact that the distress calls were intermittent and garbled at times, nearby ships were able to deduce that the captain and all of the officers were dead, that the entire crew was in danger, and that after several attempts at additional transmissions, a final message simply stated, "I die." A vessel responding to the distress signal was able to find Orang Medan shortly after the final communication. The ship looked to be in good shape, but attempts to contact it were unsuccessful, so a boarding party was ordered. When they boarded the ship, they were greeted with a terrible spectacle. The whole crew was discovered dead, their bodies twisted with arms outstretched, eyes wide, and terrified looks on their faces. Even the ship's dog was discovered dead, gnashing his teeth at an unknown foe. However, deeper inspection revealed no injuries on any of the bodies. After much discussion, it was decided to bring the vessel to port in order to examine the tragedy. Smoke began to stream out of the hull as the salvaging crew prepared to pull the vessel. To get away from the dense smoke, the crew was obliged to leave ship and cut the cables. Orang Medan blew up a few moments later. The fate of the vessel and her sad crew is still a source of macabre curiosity. Some allege the crew was plagued by demons or extraterrestrials, while others claim the ship was carrying terrible chemical weapons that killed the unprepared human crew entrusted with transporting them. Of course, conspiracy theorists claim that it was a military crew masquerading as civilians aboard a civilian ship, carrying a mysterious weapon that might have altered the course of history if Orang Medan had not perished.